Good afternoon, students. Today, let us learn about Darwin-Wallace theory of natural selection. Charles Robert Darwin was born in 1809 in England. He is considered as father of evolution. Darwin undertook an extensive voyage for 5 years on a ship by name HMS Beagle. During voyage, he collected many fossils. He also studied different types of plants and animals in their natural habitat. After careful thinking for about 28 years, Darwin published a famous book, Origin of Species by Natural Selection, in the year 1859. Alfred Russel Wallace was a contemporary and co-worker of Darwin. He was a co-discoverer of natural selection theory. Like Darwin, Wallace also gave emphasis on natural selection, but his work was unnoticed. He did not get honor and he became a forgotten evolutionist. For this reason, Darwin's theory of natural selection is also known as Darwin-Wallace theory of natural selection. Darwin-Wallace theory of natural selection is based on the following principles. Number one, overproduction or prodigality of production. Number two, struggle for existence. Number three, variations. Number four, survival of fittest. Number five, natural selection. Number six, speciation. First, overproduction or prodigality of production or enormous fertility. Animals and plants produce young ones by reproduction. All organisms produce more offsprings than what can actually survive in geometric proportion. This is called overproduction or prodigality of production. Examples. Number one, a single oyster may produce as many as 114 million eggs. If all these survived, the ocean would be full of oyster. Number two, a salmon fish produces 28 million eggs in a season. Number three, an ascaris or roundworm produces 0.7 million eggs. Number four, the fruit flies have a new generation every 10 to 14 days. A single female lays 200 eggs. If it is assumed that all the offspring survive, the offspring of a single pair of flies would be about 20 million within a matter of 40 to 45 days. Number five, the elephant is considered to be the slowest breeder. It becomes sexually mature at the age of 30. Its pregnancy lasts for 21 months. A single female elephant produces 6 young ones during its life. If all the young of pair survived, there would be nearly 19 million descendants at the end of 750 years. All the above figures are only theoretical. In nature, population never increases at such rate because of a number of factors such as diseases, parasites, accidents, food shortage, etc. These factors check the number and maintain the population size. Number two, struggle for existence. In an overcrowded population, there will be shortage of food, water, light, living space, and other basic needs of life. So the organisms in the overcrowded population compete among themselves for food and other needs. This competition for natural resources is called struggle for existence. There are three types of struggles. Number one, interspecific struggle. The competition between members of the same species is called interspecific struggle. Number two, intraspecific struggle. The competition between members of different species is called intraspecific struggle. Number three, environmental struggle. The competition between organisms and environmental factors is called environmental struggle. The environmental competition is caused by the factors such as shortage of food, oxygen, water, lack of light, predators, diseases, and natural calamities. All these factors constitute environmental resistance. These factors check the number and maintains the population size. As a result of three types of struggles, some individuals will die without reproducing and others will reproduce less. Number three, variations. No two organisms appear similar except identical twins. The structural, functional, or behavioral differences between the members of the same species are called variations. Or variations are differences among individuals of a same species. They may be in height, weight, color, external or internal structure, physiology, or behavior. Some variations are temporary, caused by environmental changes, and some are permanent, caused by heredity. Environmental variations have no role in evolution. Genetic variations or hereditary variations play an important role in evolution. Darwin described two types of variations. Number one, favorable variations or useful variations. These are the characters or variations which are useful for the survival of organisms. For example, in plants, the ability to withstand drought would be a useful variation. Number two, unfavorable variations or useless variations. These are the characters or variations which are not useful for the survival of organisms. For example, inability to run fast to escape from a predator would be a useless variation. Darwin also identifies small continuous variations and large discontinuous variations. Continuous variations are important for evolution, and discontinuous variations have no evolutionary significance. Next, survival of fittest. In the struggle for existence, the organisms with favorable variations survive and reproduce. The individual with favorable variations will have the better chances of mating, reproducing, and passing on the variation to the next generation. In this way, the more fit, or in the Darwin's words, fittest, will survive and reproduce. This process of survival is called survival of fittest. The organisms with unfavorable variations cannot survive in the struggle for existence and they perish. Next, natural selection. The process of nature which selects the organisms with favorable variations and eliminates the organisms with unfavorable variations is called natural selection. In struggle for existence, those organisms with useful variations are selected by the nature, and those organisms with useless variations are eliminated by the nature. This kind of filtering mechanism or selection of organisms by nature is called natural selection. Those selected in this way are adapted to their respective environments and can transmit their variations to the offspring. In this way, a better adapted species replaces the earlier one. The species which are eliminated by the natural selection are called biological wastage. Next, origin of a species or speciation. The process of natural selection continues over a number of generations. Favorable variations are transmitted from generation to generation. So successive generations will have more and more new characters since natural selection continues to operate. This continuous process of natural selection leads to the development of a new species which is quite different from the parental stock. The new species is formed by the gradual accumulation of useful variations. A new species of organism arises by natural selection over many generations, during which the offspring become considerably different from their ancestors. The differences would be enough to mark them of a separate species. The process of development of a new species is called speciation. Speciation is a result of evolution. Darwinism can be best understood by taking an example of giraffe. In ancient times, the giraffes were grazing animals eating grasses. When there was a scarcity of grasses, they had to depend on the leaves of trees. In giraffe, there were variations in the length of neck and forelimbs. The giraffes provided with long neck and long forelimbs were able to reach the leaves of trees. The giraffes which are provided with short limbs could not reach the leaves of trees and hence starved and died. Thus, in struggle for existence, that is, in scarcity of food, the giraffes which were provided with favorable variations like long neck and long forelimbs were selected by the nature and others were eliminated from the earth. This happened generation after generation, and that led to the development of a long neck and long forelimbs of the present day giraffes. Next, criticism of Darwinism. Charles Darwin natural selection theory is favored by many biologists. Still, there are criticism against it. They are: number one, Darwin did not explain the actual process of inheritance of characters. Darwin proposed the theory of pangenesis to explain this phenomenon. He said that every cell or organ produces minute hereditary particles called pangenes or gemmules. These were carried through the blood and deposited in the gametes. This theory was not accepted. Number two, Darwin did not explain the origin of new characters. Number three, according to natural selection, only useful organs are favored by natural selection. The existence of vestigial organs in organisms could not be explained. Number four, Darwin theory fails to explain the source of variations. These factors lead to the development of a next theory, that is synthetic theory of evolution. That's all.